Keep your radio dial right here. You're locked into the hottest news station on the planet. Hot 702.5 in FM sound. Blazing today's hip-hop, R&B, and pop music. Keeping your radio on fire. Bringing you the hottest, realest, riskiest talk shows live 24/7 on hot7025fm.com.
It's your main man, 360 the Poet from the Morning Wood. And are you looking for the perfect drink? Well, you found it. Mimosa Royale is the perfect combination of California's sparkling white wine and natural juice that is both tasty and refreshing. No artificial colors or flavors, no sugar added, and it's gluten-free. As the world's first ready-to-drink mimosa, Mimosa Royale is perfect for any occasion, day or night. You no longer have to drink 12 of those seltzers just to get that perfect buzz. At 8% alcohol, Mimosa Royale is the perfect drink to party with. Offered in a variety of flavors and sizes, you are bound to find a Mimosa Royale that you'll love. We have berry, mango, apple, and orange, with more flavors to come. Mimosa Royale is the most award-winning flavored wine that serves in bottles or cans. You can find them online at drinkmimosa.com or find them at your local liquor store. Ask for it by name. Mimosa Royale.
Hi. Hey. What's up? All your favorite artists.
Check it out. Say my name. DJ Khaled.
This is Mila J.
Bruno Mars. On hot7025fm.com.
Yo, it's Tavon Greatness Patterson. Want to listen to Hot 7025 on the go? Download the Hot 702.5 app on the Apple Store or Google Play Store if you got an Android like me.
Let's get it.
Tune in now on hot7025fm.com.
Welcome. We back for the first episode of the second episode of the Way Bigger Than Sports show. It's Q-Mecca. Suge is out today, so it's just me, y'all, but we got a special guest in the building. We got Walter Williams, MS and LPC, coming to the show. We're going to talk about mental health of black men, relationships, how mental health and relationships correlate. Welcome to the stage, Walter Williams. Walter.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Q-Mecca. Appreciate it.
How you doing, brother?
Doing well, man. Busy day, but I'm happy to have this moment to share with you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it. So first, let's introduce yourself. What kind of therapist you are, where you from, a little bit of your upbringing before we get into the questions.
No doubt, man. Born and raised Chicago, Illinois, on the south side to be exact. Grew up in the Wild Hunnets is what we called it. Roseland. Was fortunate to survive my community, but grew up in a community that was drug infested, crime ridden. Had a mother who was a drug addict and on the economic side of the drug game. So I saw the impact on both sides. Saw the ripple effect it had, my mother being in the game, my brother being in the game, my sister, and then me making a decision that wasn't a lifestyle that I thought would be best for me, just seeing the impact it was having. So observing that early, I took my education very serious, where I used that as my ticket to get out the hood, and was fortunate to get a full ride scholarship to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where I was there is where I studied rehab psychology, which is focused on vocational rehabilitation for individuals with physical disabilities, but there's the mental aspect there as well. And in that program is where I found the language to describe all of what I had experienced and the things that I was doing to survive my neighborhood and community. And I'm blessed to say, now as a licensed professional counselor, I run and operate my private practice called Think and Grow, where we focus on the mind, body, and spirit. I believe if we can reshape and restructure how we think, it can positively impact the body and uplift the spirit. And then once we get that together, we can start talking finances, because when you feel good, sometimes you want to spend a little money, But in a nutshell, man, that's a little bit about my upbringing and how I've gotten to where I am now.
All right, that's great. That was a great story and introduction. So my first question, because I heard you answer it a little bit, but a little more in depth into, what is it about your environment, a lot of environment that we all come from, that made you go on a path of, hey, this is not right. Something's wrong here. My brother, my cousins, my uncles, I see all of these people and the people around me, my friends, in this environment. What made you go the opposite way rather than the way that so many of our loved ones have went?
Yeah, good question, man. I think I caught on early on the cycle that was happening in my family. And I made a decision, and I didn't, looking back, I realized that it was just an innate thing that I was blessed with. But it was the decision I made early on that that just wasn't a life I wanted to live, because I saw how the behavior and the decisions that was being made, what the outcome was being. So police kicking in the door, police raiding the house, family going to jail, which caused some disconnection, a lot of uncertainty, this fear that what happens if we get in Chicago's DCFS or Child Protective Services, and get taken away from the family. So early on, man, I was able to decide that I have to go the opposite way, because if my family keep doing the same thing and this is the outcome, I have to be the one that do something different to just see what that outcome would be. So really, it was an act of my faith that just led me down a different path, and really making a decision to not get caught up in that. I'll be lying to say I wasn't interested and even attempted to engage in the drug game as a boy, crazy as it sounds. But when I tried, man, me and one of my homies, we was trying to go in on something together. He still owed me some money to this day, by the way. But man, like I just couldn't. I was just so nervous, man, and all I could think about, if I get caught up in this, all I'm doing is perpetuating the same thing that my family's already doing. So at that point, I knew, like, okay, this not my lane. This not for me. So let me go do something that feels more calm, and something that I can control. Because in the environment, man, there was a lot of things I couldn't control. So early on, I was able to just shift my focus to that. What's within my control, and how can I manage and take advantage of that? And that was my academics and me keeping myself busy.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I got maybe it's a two-pronged question.
Sure.
The first one is, we come from, because I come from the same neighborhood aspects you come from. We come from a aspect where when you choose to go the opposite of where everyone is going, your family members, your friends, they clown you. They say you weak. They say this, that about you. Did that have any effect on you, or did that happen to you? Did your cousins, your brothers, like, yo, what you talking about, man? You weak. Come out here and do this. Like, how did that affect you? Or was that the reason why you tried to sell drugs first, because of the peer pressure and influence of family members and so on? How did you handle that, and how was that? Was that a struggle for you, or was that not a struggle? And the second part is, how did your parents feel about it versus your brothers and your cousins?
Yeah, I was fortunate to not be clowned. I think my family, yeah, man, I think my family early on saw that I just moved different, and how I engaged with things were differently. And my mom saw that in me early. She, her and my grandmother, and something my grandma, I never forget it. She challenged me. She said, just dare to be different. That was something she shared and stated to me in my boyhood that I hold on to this day. And I think a part of that convicted me. But thankfully, man, no, they didn't clown me for deciding to go a different path. But what led to my interest, I mean, that's all I saw. You know what I'm saying? It was deep in my family. You go outside, you see the drugs being moving, you see the hustlers getting some good money, and then you go in the house and you see that your family got money, but the conditions we lived in wasn't suitable. Man, at times, no lights for years, no running water. But people would have never known, because of the way I was able to present and still take care of the family to the extent that I did. But I'm like, let me try to make some money to take care of the family. As a lot of young boys at that time, and probably and even still to this day, I won't say probably, but definitely to this day, feel that obligation when there's no father in the home. We assume that role as men early on, and then we start to make impulsive decisions that we don't really think about the long-term implications, because it's about how do we survive. And if I see my mom struggling, my grandma struggling, I'm the only boy around because my brother's locked up. It's on me to figure that out. So in a way, I kind of felt that pressure to engage in that activity, but to learn quickly that that just wasn't a path for me. And that whatever it is that we were experiencing, we was going to figure it out, because we had made it that far. But no, I wasn't clown. I would say though, Q-Mecca, I had a sense of survivor's guilt. So once I was able to survive the hood and get out, I felt like I left my people behind. Some of my homies, some of my family, people who were still stuck in situations that was some within their control and others beyond their control. So I felt like, dang, I made it, but they didn't. So sometimes I wrestle with that to this day, but I'm much better with it now, knowing that it's all about the choices we decide to make.
Right. And
Yeah.
I heard you say that your grandma and your mom had an influence on you. Where was your dad at in your life? Was he there, or was he missing, like a lot of us from our era, our age group?
Yeah. So my dad came into my life about 7 or 8 years old. So I always knew I had a father, but he was in denial of me because he was older. And
Mm-hmm.
he caught my mom slipping around the tavern and got caught up in some stuff, man. So my dad was a lot older, so he didn't think that to be specific, he was 65 years old when he had me.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, I know, right? I know. So he didn't believe that, he still had some juice in him to reproduce, and here I am. So he was in denial of me for some years until it was proven otherwise. So about 7 to 8, he came into my life, and we had a short time together. At the age of 14, he died, and didn't die from natural causes. He had a procedure, fell, hit his head, knocked himself out, and never came back. But in that short period of time, man, we tried to build the best relationship we could. But I was still a boy, so I didn't know the right questions to ask, the right topics to really engage with, because I was looking to him for guidance. And he wasn't as vulnerable with me on some of those things. I think once he realized that accepted that I was his son, he tried to, show up, and we built I would say we built a relationship, but it wasn't one of substance, if you will. It was enough to get us by. But beyond that, man, that was the extent of my relationship with my father.
Okay, so when since he came into your life around 7 or 8, when he came in, you didn't have any resentment or ill will towards him. Did you just allowed him in, like, hey, this my pops, come, let's build a relationship? Or because a lot of black men still to this day, old as we are or older, still have resentment towards their father not being there, and that causes some of our issues in our mental health and in our relationships.
Yeah, that's a good question, man. Honestly, just thinking back to that time, I didn't carry any resentment, but I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions, but I didn't have the language at the time to ask those questions. And in the environment I grew up in, kids are supposed to be seen and not heard. So it was a
Yeah.
level of respect as well that I had to have. I think my grandma was a huge part of that, because she really advised me to not just reach out to him, because I need to go school shopping or because it's my birthday or whatever, but to really try to engage with him and get to know him. So we would have small talk, man, not a lot. So I credit her for me not entering that relationship with resentment. I would say some of my resentment came years later as I began to develop and from teenage into young adulthood. And I'm like, man, I wish I would have been able to just chop it up with my dad and understand things and get some of the history, recognizing the age gap, right? Get some of the history and the knowledge and experiences he had. So I think my resentment came a lot later, once I really began to accept and recognize what I grew up in and how, he played a part in that. And so in college, man, I had got to a point where I had to get to a place of forgiveness, for him and my mom, so that I can move on in my healing journey and be the man that I was destined to be.
Okay, and when in what you just said, what did that look like for you, um, when you started to? Because a lot of people out here wonder, like, why am I the way I am? When they don't know their father, when they don't know one half of their who they are, they always wonder, like, why do I do this, or why I'm not like my other siblings, or that have maybe they know their dad. What did that look like for you, coming of age? Because you said he died when you was 14, so like you graduating high school, going to college. What did that look like for you, not having a dad there, having a little bit of resentment? And it sounds like your grandmother, God bless her, she was a great woman to keep you
Mhm.
on a path of not just looking at your father as oh, he ain't nothing. He wasn't there for me. He denied me. Shout out to her for that, because that's important.
Yes,
like you said,
yes,
you
sir.
give her credit for that. We also have to recognize that some parents, when they're the only parent there, they frame the child's father as the bad guy, and that's what the child is going to soak up and believe because they're only hearing it from one side. So shout out to her for that.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man. I agree. I definitely got to shout out my grandma on that one. But what did it look like? You know, man. That's a really good question, Q-Mecca. I think there's a few components to it. If I'm understanding your question, it's uh, one, I was able to draw off the energy of other men that was around me. I was in sports, different clubs. I was in church. So I was able to draw off the energy of men who in a way I aspired to be, like the way they carried themselves, the way they spoke, the way they dressed. So I just began to take notes and emulate what I began to see. Again, not fully knowing the depths of it, but I know that I'm a boy and will soon be a man. So if my dad is not here to give me this direct guidance, how can I begin to use my environment to influence me? So that was one way that I began to do that. In that same vein, I use that same approach to think about what not to do. So I watched how men engage with certain people, how they moved, watch how guys was being snakes and backstabbers in the street. I'm like, okay, I see what that gets you. So that's a route that I don't want to go. So I had this perspective and this way of just using what I was seeing to either influence how I moved or to help me to shape and shape my behavior in a way that I thought would help me just move a little closer and not go down the path that I was seeing. But that's one way, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's great. I understand that, and I see that. I have a lot of that where, even though I had my father, I have a lot of where I can look, and I try to tell my nephews and nieces this, hey, you can look at examples of everybody in your life and see what you like, what you think was a good result, and what you think wasn't a good result. And then you don't have to go through it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's something that I think is you're born with, or something that we're all born with, but we don't tap into it based on our situations. And I don't know what makes the situation different or not, but in your experiences when you come across young boys or relationships with young men who didn't know their daddy and they hold the resentment and they have the strong feelings about them, or their mom or grandmother put the framing of that their dad ain't nothing or he's a piece of trash into them, how do you see that in your experiences, and then how do you have them cope with that?
Good question, man. Yes, I do see that in my experience, and that requires a lot of unpacking and a lot of narrative shifting, because when our parents, the people who have influence in our lives say things, we hold on to it. That's why I had to shout out my grandma, right? She said something to me, I held on to it, and it made a difference in my life. The same on the negative side. We're told we ain't nothing, or we just like our daddy, or we won't be nothing like our daddies, and things like that, how that starts to become our belief system. We operate by that either consciously or subconsciously. So one way that I've supported young boys and men and women too, when it comes to it, encouraging them to get to know the person for themselves, because I think it's one thing to have another adult or parent to share their perspective, because parenting and the relationship that the parent had with the partner, they're not mutually exclusive, right? Marriage and parenting, right, they're not mutually exclusive. You can be great at one and terrible at the other, and vice versa. So dismantling that. I'm also helping them to unpack these several identities that we have. Dr. Kimberly Wilkinson talks about the intersection of identities, how we all have multiple layers. So just as he's a dad, he's also a man, right? Whatever the man name is. So let's begin to engage with him or process this based on the man and his name versus the title of a dad. Because with certain titles come this sense of obligation and this sense of respect that needs to be, this reverence, etc. But when we can just look at him as a man, as a person with lived experiences, and begin to understand what he was experiencing, what he's going through. Can we have some compassion? Can we have some understanding or perspective that we may not have had, only view him as a dad? So that's one of the ways that I help folks, all of my clients, just kind of unpack that and begin to decipher. And I've seen it be transformational, man, in people's lives once they can just see them as man, see them as Charles or whatever the person's name is. And it just shifts the energy and allows them to process it from that lens versus, a father lens. And not that it doesn't matter, but it comes with a level of weight and it comes with a level of responsibility and a lot of hurt is there. But when we shift it, it opens up the portals to where we can really do some good work.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. 100%. We sometimes only look at our parents as a mom or a dad, not realizing that they are a human being and they were one before we were born, and they're not perfect. We sometimes, I think parents don't understand the damage that they do to their children by acting like they're perfect, right? So I'm not saying that you shouldn't expose your children to crazy things. Of course, it'll be your discretion and age-wise how your child can understand this. But we tend to think, or we tend to treat our children like, you guys don't know nothing and we're going to hide everything from you and we're going to act like we're perfect. And then when they find out years later, when they're maybe a teenager, that dad cheated on mom or mom cheated on dad or mom stabbed dad or whatever happened, you start judging them more harshly, like you said, rather than understanding that just like you go through things with your child's father or mother, when you become an adult and a parent, you realize, oh, my parents just did the best they could with what they knew. And I'm judging them off, they're supposed to be perfect because my child understanding says that they're supposed to be perfect and they're my hero. So I love how you broke that down, and I think more people can learn from, hey, humanize your mom and your dad for the mistakes or what you carry, the baggage that you carry from them. Humanize them and realize that my mom had me when she was 17 and she had my older sister when she was 15. Okay. So a 15-year-old having a baby, and then 2 years later, a 17-year-old having a baby. My mom had some things that she was a baby having a baby, and she wasn't going to be the most perfect mom. And some of my siblings hold that against her, and I always used to tell her, hey, Mom, you did the best you could with what you had.
There you go.
And now that we are grown, and we've been grown for a long time, I tell my siblings, hey, you got to work within yourself to, first of all, humanize our mother. Imagine when you was 15 or 17, if you had children.
Exactly.
And would you handle it the best? Do you think you would handle it the best if you was 15 and 17 having children? So that answer that you gave was very, very, very informative and important, I think.
I appreciate that, man. If I could just add to it, when we think about resentment and the feelings we carry towards our parents, resentment is just toxic poison, because it's only you that's suffering from it, because our parents are going on and with their lives. Some of them aren't even here. Both my parents have transitioned. So me holding on to resentment only causes me to suffer, So I help, the folks I work with to start thinking about it from that lens. So why inflict self-pain like that, right? Why hold on to that poison? Because it's only going to kill you, period, right? And life is about living, not being stuck in a place that's no longer serving you. So I appreciate you sharing that, man.
All right, I have a question for you. Me and my partner came up with it, and I think it's important. Let me find it. Now, how do you think that social media impacts young people's lives in your experience?
Man, it gives them a very, very false narrative. It gives this impression that things are perfect, people are perfect. It gives what I call artificial connection. It gives this idea that we're connected because I like your picture, reshare your post. and that I know you, right? Because you may post a
Right.
couple of pictures of you been on vacation or that you're doing this, and it's this idea that I know you when really I really don't know you for real. I just see what you portray, So I think it gives this false reality that people have it together, that people are perfect, that people can socialize, and behind the scenes, that's just not the case. I would say with young people, particularly, there's a high uptake in social anxiety, and what we labeling as ADHD, ultimately because we have so many things competing for our attention. That's the
Right.
era we in. When we think about technology, you have to think about attention. How quick can I get your attention? How long can I keep your attention? And I think it's happening, and behind the scenes, you have kids who are socially awkward, who in a room full of people, but closed off to themselves and locked into their
To their
devices.
phone. Yes.
Exactly, man. So it's having a huge impact on our youth. And what I encourage youth to do, people in general, just to take a break and to detox from it, to fast from it, to give yourself a break from it, and really engage in some real life interaction, so that you can know that, as you were just saying, like, we all are imperfect people trying to live perfectly, right? And trying to be better in the pursuit of life. And I think the more we can expose them to what's real, it helps them to know that life isn't perfect. There's no blueprint. We all just trying to figure it out. But I think social media has allowed us to portray this picture perfect or video perfect idea when that's just not the case, man. But I definitely see that impact for sure.
Right. And that impact in the children, like you said, we come from an era where we was outside. We went outside. We learned how to talk. We learned when we wanted to be disrespectful to somebody and we talked to them crazy, it was a consequence for it. There wasn't no, I could just say what I want to say because I'm behind a phone screen or a computer screen, right? And just disrespectful, because the internet, the first time I got on it, I seen the comments, I was like, what is going on? And it was just about hip hop. But it was so much racism and hate that I was like, oh, this is what's going on. I'm cool on this. But do you think that, well, in your experience, when you tell the parents, because sometimes you tell the parents and the children, hey, take a break from the internet and realize that the internet is not real life, in the sense that you need to go out and build connections with people, meet people, try new things, go out in the world, do some things so you can have trial and error, rather than picture perfect, everything's supposed to work out all right, or everybody's supposed to look like whoever, Kim Kardashian or Cardi B, all of those things. Because I seen that it's having a very, very impactful stance on young women's self-image.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I'm engaging with clients about it, I recognize that some people have become addicted to it. It becomes how they cope, if you will, how they escape reality or escape life. But it's like you're escaping life to be in a pseudo life,
Right.
an ambiguous life, So it becomes counterintuitive. But just in my challenge of clients doing that, I invite them to, like, as you say, to well, let me back up, because it's in our nature, like, as men, as people, we're going to experience rejection, right? We're going to experience being turned down. Someone's going to say no. Someone's not going to vibe with us. Those are the things I think we learn growing up that stings. But as you get older, you'd be like, whatever. What you think about me don't bother me no more, et cetera, et cetera. So to your point, man, it's easy to hide behind a device. We can say things. But what it doesn't allow for is, how do we handle conflict in real time, right? When you say something that really hurts my feelings, versus me going to the internet and trying to out you there, how can I come have a conversation and say, yo, Q-Mecca, man, the way you said that, man, that really hurt me, dog. That really hurt me. So can you not say it like that? Maybe consider a different approach so I can make sure I understand what you're saying, right? It's the skills that I think we begin to miss, and we don't get a chance to cultivate and develop, because we're so caught up in presenting a certain way. That is these soft skills, man. And I'm seeing it with our men too, and with our women, where women are wanting men to be more emotionally depth. And women don't need a man to provide for them no more. Women are crushing it, man. They doing their thing. Black women are extremely educated, so they're not looking for a man to come be a knight in shining armor. They're looking for someone who can be a partner and someone who can um, have a level of depth when it comes to emotion and having conversation and having values versus just what one can do. So me just challenging them to just take a step back is the invitation then become, how do you get to know yourself? What are your values? What do you stand for? What do you believe in? What does that look like? What does that sound like? What does it even feel like? So that as you meet people, you can start to meet people with intention and align yourself with people who can help elevate those values and sharpen them along the way, because iron sharpen irons all day.
Yeah, I agree with that. My father always told me, hey, the most important education you can have, son, is the knowledge of self. If you don't know who you are, then it doesn't matter what you do. You're going to crash. You're going to fall. You're going to fail because you're just doing things and you don't understand the reason. So I agree with that 100%. You got to know yourself, know who you are. And a lot of people don't. But you answered a little bit of my next question, which is mental health becoming, is the purpose of mental health about becoming a resilient human being, being able to manage, process, and understand the ups and downs of life, or about avoiding negative experiences and rejection, like you said, or the downs of life? Because it seems to me that everybody's saying, oh, for my mental health, I ain't gonna do this, I ain't gonna do that, I can't talk to them, I can't talk to that, or you can't talk about that around me, or we can't talk about this. And I think that is the opposite of mental health. I believe that mental health is about being able to handle all of the situations in a calm, considerate, caring manner, not avoiding situations because you're triggered, which means you're not working on yourself. What is your thoughts on that and experience with people confusing mental health with avoiding growth?
Yeah. Good question, man. Just to comment to the previous question, man, a lot of times, man, a lot of us, we're just scared to get to know ourselves. So to the social media piece, it's easy to get lost in someone else's life and follow you and what you're doing versus sitting down and getting to know myself, to get to know thyself. Because when you really sit with your thoughts, it can be scary. Like, why am I thinking about this? Or why is this popping up? Or why am I feeling this way? And when we say metacognition, that's when you think about what you're thinking about. But when we get so distracted and our attention is somewhere else, the person who needs the attention the most is yourself. We missing that. But mental health, man, how I define it, how I look at it, I view it as mirrors and windows. Mirror in the sense where you sit with someone, and every provider isn't the same. I've heard many clients come to me and be like, I had this bad experience with providers, and I'm not here to judge them, but everybody's experience is different, because you do have to have somebody that you can sit with that can hold the space for you that you need, right? But I view it as mirrors and windows. Mirrors in a sense that it's an opportunity where you can sit with someone who can reflect back to you, what you're saying, what you're doing in a way that's non-judgmental, that doesn't have a bias. And it can just poke holes in how you're seeing it or how you're saying it. Have you considered it like this? Have you thought about like this? But what about this perspective? And so in that mirror, it gives an opportunity to just reflect. Okay, that's what I said. That's how I'm thinking. That's how that's showing up in my life, right? Then on the other side, with the windows, it becomes an opportunity where now let's look at some new perspectives. Let's look at some new ideas. Avoidance is actually, it goes against being sometimes mentally well. Because avoiding it isn't always the case. That's not always the coping strategy. Because sometimes you can't go around something. You have to go through it. What they say, to get to it, you got to go through it, right? So avoiding it doesn't get us closer to self-actualization or the higher version of ourselves. So I think mental health is the opportunity to just sit with someone, to have some reflection, to be exposed to some new perspectives, some new ideas, and then to go, and here's what I believe the catch of it all is, and then take what you learn and apply it, right? As a provider, man, one of the biggest compliments that I get is when a client be like, yo, Walt, whatever, call me Walt, that's just me speaking freely with you, Q-Mecca. Like, yo, Walter, I tried this, or I did this, or I had some boundaries here, and it was this, that, and the other. And I'm like, Yeah, when they can reflect back to me something I said to them and they twisted it and made it their own and applied it. It's like, yes. So mental health for me, man, is being able to have that mirror, have that window, and then applying what it is that you're learning. And the other piece I'll say to it is just having a space to just dump, man. We carry a lot as humans. We carry a lot as people. We experience a lot in a day, let alone a week, a month. So if you can have a space where you can just dump some of those burdens that you're carrying onto someone else who can handle it, because the people in your close circle may not handle it, or you might not want to talk about some of it with them. Some of them may be the reason why you in therapy, anyways. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
true. That is true.
But I think having a place to dump, because I don't think is healthy to carry all the burdens by ourselves. And to me, that's a sign of becoming mentally well and taking care of our mental health.
That's a great answer. On that topic still, I got a follow-up question for you.
For sure.
You being a therapist, do you have a therapist or do you have somebody to be able to dump when you feeling overwhelmed on?
I do. I have a therapist. She's a great woman. And I lay it on her. I lay it on her. My wife, man, she's a great support, and we have some great dialogues and great talks, and she's a great support system for me as well. And when I'm in my therapy sessions, thankfully, I'm not often in a state of crisis. Sometimes I just got a lot on my mind that I need to just, as I mentioned, just get off. And I know that I can share a lot of it with my wife, and most of it I do. But being a partner and then listening to what she has going on, I'm like, I'm gonna hold this because I don't want to add to what you may be going through, right? So let me take it here, dump it, process it, maybe have some new language to share with you on it, or let you finish working through what you're working through, and then we can circle back. But that's my way of just trying not to, because sometimes we can dump too much on our partners and on our friends. So as someone who's in a position of being a servant to others, I put myself in position to just relieve myself of some of that too, man. And it just helps me to be better and sharper in the work that I do.
That's a great answer, and I like the honesty of it. Some people will be like, "Oh no, I'm a therapist. I wouldn't need a therapist," but you were honest about it, and that's a great thing. And all right, now I got some topics to ask you about your experience with working with. Do you work with like couples? Would you work with couples and have their therapy and their issues? Have you ever done that? Is that part of your experience?
Yes, it is. I've worked with couples.
Right. So when you work with couples, what do you think, or what do you come across the most as the biggest issues in the modern era with couples having issues that come to you?
Yeah. That's a good question, man. I would say the common things that I've experienced so far, um, hmm, it's so many. But just to keep it succinct, communication, right? I think it's a big theme. Being heard is one thing, but being understood is another, right?
Right.
And in communication, sometimes what I'm learning, and I'll kind of be gender specific, where some of my women clients with their partners who identify as male, they sometimes as men we quick to rescue, we quick to problem solve and offer solutions, and sometimes the partner just want them to listen and just hold space for them and hold some compassion. So that becomes a breakdown in their communication, a breakdown in trust, and a breakdown in intimacy. So how do we create a space where the men begin to develop the skill to just listen, and to listen with empathy and with some attentiveness, and reflect back what's being heard? Because not all the time people want their problem solved, because a lot of times we know the answers to our problems. We just need to get it out. So that's a common issue that I've encountered with couples. Another one I would say is sometimes the men just struggling to express what it is that they're experiencing and going through. Kind of like what I was just saying, because they don't want to put so much on their partners, and their partners like, tell me what's going on, talk to me, but they're like, so we start to cope in other unhealthy ways. So I would say communication is a huge piece, as you may know, man, that impacts couples, and with that comes the erosion of trust, intimacy, of connection, and then we just start to see a drift over time if we don't catch it soon. But in a nutshell, I would say that's the biggest piece that I'm often seeing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Communication. And like you said, some men be like, hey, I'm just going to handle it. I was raised to handle it, and whatever. We don't never, what I think some of us, my beliefs, just real quick, or my opinion, I think that we have gotten away or wasn't taught the nature of things, which is every action has a reaction and it's equal. So you can't just hold a bunch of things in, especially if they're bothering you, or you have to figure them out from your partner, and then think that you aren't going to act it out in ways that you might not be aware of. I think that we think that, I forgot who it was. Maybe it was Thomas Sowell. He said, there's no such thing as solutions in life. There's just trade-offs. It's like this, you can choose to work a demanding job, but if you have a family, then the trade-off is you're going to miss the time with your family, and that can cause a problem. So I think we got away from the nature of things of like, hey, everything has a trade-off and a cost. Am I willing to pay this cost? Do I know what the cost will be? If the cost is too much, am I going to be able to course correct and be like, okay, it ain't worth it? So I think a lot of our issues is that we got away from the nature of God, and we don't listen to what I call the God within us. Because the God within us, if we're silent, which I don't think we are, we live in a crazy world where we got a million things going on. Oh, I got to pay this, I got this, I got that. We don't take the time to rest. One of, I think it was, her name was Hillary Harrington, whatever. She's the Huffington. She's the owner of the Huffington Post. She said that she passed out, and she said the reason she passed out was just exhaustion. She worked too much. And I don't think we understand that the same much you put into work, you got to rest. That's a balance. That's why God made day and night and sleep. Sleep is your body rejuvenating itself to be prepared to come do what it did the past, 12 hours. So I think a lot of our issues is we get the more technologically advanced we become, the further we get away from the nature of things. Man, what do you think about that?
You spot on. You spot on, man. Because suppression is real. Like when we're suppressing our thoughts and our feelings and not being able to process it. And I think as men, we get it honestly, because we told early on, stop crying, it's for girls, or
be a big boy.
Be a big boy, right? Whatever that message is that was sent to us, or that we may find ourselves sending to our kids. It shuts us down early on. So we're then conditioned right away to begin to just keep things in, and then it still
we blow up.
Exactly.
Violently.
Exactly.
When it's men, exactly.
Yeah. So it becomes a violent expression. And now that's what they say, we go to 0 to 100 quick, and there's no middle ground. So having a place to dump is very important. And to what you were saying, man, a lot of the men I work with, that's what we talk about. Just rest.
Yeah.
I think we kind of escape from that grind culture, yet still experiencing it because of social media, because it appeared that people working all the time, doing the thing all the time. You know what I'm saying? When in reality, it's just not the case. But men are tired. And I think sometimes men don't know how to say that, because we marry the idea that I have to provide. In a way we do, right? But provision is more than just going to work and making $1. Yes. Exactly. Is how can you provide emotionally, spiritually, with presence, not a present, but with your physical presence, right? Things that provide a sense of comfort and safety and security for those that you love. Because stress is a silent killer. And it's us men who go first, especially if we're not taking care of our health or finding a way to express that energy. And something I challenge my men to do when you can't talk about it, because not all the time we have the words, right?
Right.
But how can you still get that energy out? Can you go play some ball? Can you go to the gym, throw some weights around? Can you hit the bag? Whatever it is, just to find a way to, because the body needs to, as you mentioned, that energy, that body needs to get that energy out and express itself in a way so that new energy can come in, man. So I think you're spot on what you're saying there.
Yeah, I agree with you on that too. That's a good, go to the gym, play basketball, box, martial arts, MMA, run, walk.
Exactly.
All of those things I think are good. And I do agree with you that a lot of times in this era, it's this protect and provide, but it's only monetary rather than, I remember maybe 10, 11, 12 years ago, my oldest daughter was graduating from high school. And she told me, I wish you was there more for my events in school. And I was at work. That was when I was working 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 8 to 9. So I was looking at it like I was trying to provide.
Yeah.
I thought that in my head when she told me, but I didn't say it to her because I wanted to hear where she was coming from, right? Because a lot of times we don't listen to our kids. So I'm like, damn, she was like, Mom was there, but you were, and then I'm thinking like, I wanted to bite back like, oh, I was at work, but I got a younger daughter that was 4 at that time. What I did with that information that my oldest daughter gave me was, you know what? I'm going to change my work schedule so that I can be for everything my youngest daughter does. I could be there for her. I could pick her up from school. I could help her with her homework. I could be there when she got dance, when she played. So a lot of times we think as men, oh, I'm providing, I'm out here working, but we don't understand that presence is the most important thing. Even if you a man who lost your job and the mom works, you can help her out by picking up the child, doing their homework with them, taking them to and from their things. That's how you can help out. And that's just or more important to the child than giving them some money for some Jordans or whatever.
100%.
So I think that a lot of times, men, we don't understand that, hey, it ain't just about providing money and that. It's also about being there for your children too, talking to them, going through them, teaching them about getting to know who they are, the God within them, which is what my father told me. So I was fortunate where I'm from to have a father. Where I'm from, only maybe 3 dudes had fathers. So I understand how it makes the males, that's how gangbanging becomes popular, right? So I appreciate this talk with you. It was a wonderful talk. A wonderful talk. We need to have this more. And I want to get your number because I noticed that they say a lot of bad things about Chicago in our news, right? But when I got friends from there and family, when I go look for the good things, which they have a lot of good things in Chicago too.
Absolutely.
They don't promote those in the media, the mainstream media, but it's people. I've learned some things like the principals and teachers in Chicago was teaching the kindergartens, first graders, SAT words because they saw the correlation between 4th grade reading levels in jails, right? So the 6-year-olds was learning how to spell and understanding the meaning and where the words came from. So I started that with my youngest daughter. I was in Chicago, but they never put it on the news. I had to dig for it. You know they're gonna put the shootings on the news. Oh, this many shut up. So it's good to see brothers like you and a lot of other brothers to be highlighted as, hey, we're doing the work here. Yeah, we're not Kanye West, but we're doing the work with the people here. So I appreciate that and all of your perspectives on everything that you said today. And I got one more question for you.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's actually it's my partner's question. He told me to send this to you. Is there a realistic end goal to therapy of being fully healed? Or is it a continuous thing that you would have to grow? And how do you, if you were the judge of it, could say, hey, all right, I think I've done enough for you, my patient, and you don't need me anymore? How does that look to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. It looks a few ways. How can I put this? I have some clients who I've been with, who I've been with, and they've been with me for an extended period of time. And what happens, early on, we may have a lot of intense, more frequency where we're meeting, let's say once a week. As the client progress and show growth in the goals that we focusing on, we'll go bi-weekly, maybe every 3 weeks, maybe once a month, or I may get a client that's like, hey, I think I want to take a break from services for a little bit. For me, that's a good sign that they're feeling confident and comfortable and ready to, lean on their own without having the support. To the question though, I think healing is a journey. I don't know if we ever arrive at a state of being fully healed, and not that it's not possible, But my mind goes to like happiness, for example. Happiness is more of a destination, more of a journey than a destination. But it's what you experience along the way that gives you that feeling of happiness. I think healing is the same. Is what we experience on the way of healing that gives us that feeling of being healed. When we respond and I react, when I can come to you and say, "Hey, man, here's how I feel about this situation," or when I can feel myself not carrying as much resentment as I once did about a situation when we talk about the topic. Those are the signs that we're healing and moving in a direction. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people want it to happen overnight, but it's layers that we have to peel back sometimes to get us to where we are going. So it's the compounding effect of those small things that adds up to where we look up and be like, you know what? I don't have that same feeling I used to have about my mom or my dad or whomever hurt me or whatever situation I came out of. So specifically, it's a journey. It's a journey. I don't think we ever come to a place of being have arrived, but I do think we get to a place where we say, I've made it here, and this is a good place to stake out, because life's going to throw something else at you that's going to trigger that wound, and it may bring up old feelings, which lets us know that healing still needs to persist. But when clients are at a point where they're no longer want to engage, or at a place where I'm like, yo, you good? And I have some clients like that. They're like, I just want to check in. I'm like, no, let's take a break. Let's take 30 days, reach back out to check in. Or we shift to what we call the maintenance stage, where we just touch and base, making sure things are staying as smooth as they can, or just processing day-to-day stresses. So hopefully that answered the question.
I got it. It's like, it's the journey. And if you're getting the tools along the way, you do better. And then you see your relationships are better. And that's how you know you're healing, by having better relationships, handling turmoil in your relationships better. That makes sense. Yeah, because you look up and be like, dang, that's how far I've come. Right, I handled that way better than I used to have handled it before. Exactly. Hey, this is a great conversation and a much needed. We're going to have you back when my partner's back.
Would love to.
Give the people your information if they needed to reach out to you or wanted to talk to you right now, so they can know. And ladies and gentlemen, Walter Williams, a great guy.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man. I appreciate you and your team for having me and inviting me on. I'm happy I was able to share my story and some of the work that I do. Walter Williams, owner of Think and Grow. That's thinkandgrowllc.com. Feel free to check out the website. On that page, you can reach out to me. Send an email, it'll come directly to me and we'll respond. I do have a social media, WaltWill06. Transparently, I don't engage with it as much. However, if you hit me up when I do engage, I'll be sure to get back to you. But check out my website. On there, you'll be able to email me. I'm very responsive when it comes to email. I love to be of a servant to help people along the journey.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for coming.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, man. This was great.
All right, we out of here, y'all.
Yes, sir.
Peace. Only thing we need more of is more love.
Hi. Hey.
What's up? All your favorite artists.
Check it out. Say my name. DJ Khaled.
This is Mila J.
Bruno Mars.
On hot 7025fm.com.